Hi, Mike, and hello to everybody in the Elevation Group. Mike Maloney here from goldsilver.com, wealthcycles.com, and author of Rich Dad's Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. By the way, if you haven't read my book, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver, it's still as pertinent today as the day I wrote it. I just reread it recently. The book was written between 2005 and the end of 2007. And many of the things that I predicted in the book have come true. It was released, at the height of the real estate bubble, and I was predicting that real estate would be coming down and so on. Anyway, I've got a lot to cover here. I'm going to show you a little bit about what is wrong with something that's wrong with the economy, and then I'm going to show you some of the fundamentals of gold and silver and why gold and silver are still a major bargain. By the way, some of this presentation you can find if you go to my website, goldsilver.com, and you view the video Debt Collapse. It has a lot more of this information in here, more detail, and even more understandable. But what I'm going to show you first here is something that shows that this emergency is not over yet. Ben Bernanke is still trying to goose the money supply. This is something called base money. It's base money, the monetary base, is the paper dollars that exist. It's the paper dollars plus the deposits that the commercial banks have at the Federal Reserve, all redeemable in paper dollars. So it's really just a measurement of how many paper dollars exist. It took 200 years to go from $0 to 825 billion. That's what existed in 2008. And then along came the financial crisis of 2008, and Ben Bernanke did some bailouts, and we went from 825 billion to 2.8 trillion. So we added another 2 trillion on top of the 825 billion. There's about 4 times more paper dollars than existed in early 2008. And so it took 200 years to get to 825 billion, and then 4 times more dollars in just the past couple of years. But that is a very small portion of the currency supply. This is M3. It's a broader measurement of the currency supply. And this currency is very efficient currency that you and I borrow into existence when we buy a house or a car. And it directly employs somebody. You buy a car and they build another one in Detroit. You buy a house, if it's a new house, you've just basically paid a bunch of plumbers, electricians, and the contractors that built the house. So this stimulates the economy directly, and it takes a while for this base money to stimulate the economy. So this is less efficient than the currency that we borrow into existence. But what's happening here is there's this little collapse going on. And if you deduct the base money that Ben Bernanke creates from M3, you can see that there's this 12% collapse. This is an emergency. There's this emergency going on, and you noticed that Ben Bernanke has not stopped inflating base money, so you know that this emergency has not ended. This has never happened since the onset of the Great Depression. That's the second time in history, in the measurements that we have, of the currency supply contracting like this. The only other time was the onset of the Great Depression. In my book, I said we were on a roller coaster. There would be inflation, followed by the threat of deflation, to which Ben Bernanke would overreact by doing bailouts and stuff, and that would cause some mild inflation, and then we'd have real deflation. That's this. The proper definition of inflation and deflation is an expansion or a contraction of the currency supply. Rising and falling prices are merely a symptom of monetary inflation or deflation, and we are going into monetary deflation. But even M3 is just a small portion of the total currency supply. If we look at base money, M3, and then total credit is how many dollars exist. The currency supply is a reflection of credit, and it's 53 trillion. And you notice it's gone flat up here. If you deduct the base money from it, it is collapsing. And so it's very important that you do something right now to both protect yourself and put yourself on the correct side of this wealth transfer. It's the greatest wealth transfer in history, therefore it's the greatest opportunity in history. One thing I discovered when I was writing my book something I've never read about anywhere else. It was just this amazing fact that hit me. Every 30 to 40 years, the world has a new monetary system. If you want to understand more about this, watch my debt collapse video on goldsilver.com. But there was the classical gold standard, then from the 1870s until 1913. Then between the wars, we had something called the gold exchange standard. Then after World War II, the Bretton Woods system. And then from August of 1971, we've been on something called the dollar standard, which is now over 40 years old. It says 39 years on here. It's a little old presentation, but what's next? In this decade, there's going to be an emergency meeting of the G20 finance ministers, and they're going to try and hash out a new world monetary system, and it will most likely be connected with gold, and they're already talking about it. The World Bank is talking about it, the IMF. There will probably be some system connected with gold, and I cannot imagine any gold standard that would have gold prices at less than $5,000 an ounce. If they made some like hocus pocus Bretton Woods type system where only foreign central banks can redeem their dollars for gold, that requires a price way over $5,000 an ounce. If they back all dollars in existence with gold, it requires $203,000 an ounce gold to back all those dollars. So there's probably something coming up. It's just a natural thing that when you create a man-made currency system, a man-made monetary system, it can't account for all the forces in the free market, and it will eventually implode. This is the base money, the number of paper dollars that exist, and the value of the gold at the Treasury. This starts in the year 1918. So this is currency and this is gold. And this currency was backed by gold. We get up to the 1929 market crash and the bank runs of the 30s. And then Roosevelt made private ownership of gold illegal. And then a year later, they allowed the dollar to float. The dollar's value sank until it required $35 to buy an ounce of gold. And in doing so, the value of the gold at the Treasury rose to meet the currency supply. This is the same chart, but I've taken it out until 1971 here. So this is the first chart. Now we've got World War II. We've got the years following up to World War II, where gold was flowing from Europe into the United States. And then World War II breaks out. The U.S. does a bunch of deficit spending. And then the Korean War. And then Charles de Gaulle of France realizes we don't have enough gold to back our dollars, and he starts asking for gold, and then other countries do. And then we have Johnson's Great Society and the deficit spending for Vietnam. And so we were literally bankrupt. Our liabilities exceeded our assets. These dollars were redeemable in gold, and we had lied. There wasn't enough gold. And now we're going to extend this chart again. There's the dollars. This was the first chart. This is the second chart. I'm adding another line here, and this is outstanding revolving credit. It's unpaid credit card balances. If you want to know why I've included that, go watch my video, Debt Collapse. But what happens here is Nixon takes us off of the Bretton Woods system, and gold becomes a freely traded commodity, and the will of the public and the free markets bid it up until for quite a period of time we could have gone back on the gold standard. There was enough gold at the Treasury to cover every dollar in existence, and for a little while it covered outstanding revolving credit also. Well, what price would it take today to have gold rise until it covers base money and outstanding revolving credit again, if history were to repeat? And what I found is that gold has risen, but we did these bailouts. And so the base money is up here. We're up at $3.5 trillion when you include outstanding revolving credit. So today it requires about $15,000 to $20,000 per ounce gold if history were to repeat, and if gold rises, if the will of the public and the free markets bid the price of gold up until it covers the same portion of the currency supply. Here is another way to measure this. It's the percent of the currency supply that's covered by gold. And again, this is just base money. So this is the paper dollars. When there's more gold than there is dollars, then gold is expensive. If there's more dollars than gold, gold is cheap, and if it's way down here, it's very cheap. And if you take a look at this, this goes back to 1918, and we had too much gold just going up to World War II, and then not enough, and now we're way down here. So gold is really, really cheap right now, and if you add outstanding revolving credit, it's even cheaper. It's down here at about 8 or 10, about 8% of the dollars, the physical paper dollars and outstanding revolving credit are covered by gold right now. And it needs to rise back up here, and it will. So it's extremely cheap. This is the Dow Jones Industrials. If you were in 1971 to invest $1 in the Dow as our proxy for stocks, and you rode that all the way up until today, your dollar would have increased so that you have $13 today. If you had invested in gold in 1971, the same time period, your dollar would have risen until it becomes, this will take just a second because there's so many of them, $47 instead of $13. So gold has outperformed stocks by a long shot here, and it's a physical asset you can hold in your hand, and you don't have to place it in the custodialship of the big banks that caused this problem. When you've got a stock, it's on a brokerage platform. The big banks are your custodians. This is the gold Dow ratio. So it's gold divided by the Dow. So this is gold priced in stocks, basically. And what it's showing from the bubble back in 1980 is that gold is still cheaper than dirt. It still had to be back up in a bubble, it has to rise up into this area. And it is. It's going to do this accounting. It's just doing it. It's taking its time, and it's going to rise. But by the end of this decade, maybe very soon actually, you never know, a currency crisis will speed this up. But gold will rise and it'll cover this. This is the silver Dow ratio, and as you can see, silver's so undervalued compared to stocks right now, it hasn't even started doing its accounting. And it will do that accounting. So gold is cheaper than dirt. The world economy is in trouble. Protect yourself and prosper. Thank you very much.